Hi guys, it's Tara and welcome back to Crafting with Curly Cues. Today I have a fabulous project featuring Mint Owl Studio to share with you guys. I'm going to be creating a set of shaped shaker cards filled with micro beads. So I've been on a bit of a micro bead kick lately, and this is just one more way to use that fabulous little project. So to start out, I have an entire giant piece of watercolor cardstock. So this is 9 inches by 12 inches. This is big, people. I'm telling you, my arm was sore by the time I got done. So I started out by putting down a layer of peacock feathers distress ink. So I am going to be creating a ocean background, and I wanted to do it on the full size sheet of paper so that I could use it to create a whole set of cards and do a whole bunch of cards at once. And so this was a really great way to do that. I actually even ended up with half the paper left for future projects. So it's definitely a good way to do it. It just, man, let me tell you, your arm gets all kinds of cramped up by the time you're done. So the little stencil I'm using, you saw earlier, is just a piece of regular copy paper that you would put in your printer. And I just trimmed some really loose wave designs. I did one that was a little bigger and one that was a little smaller. So once I had my base layer of peacock feathers on my paper, I'm going over with this handmade stencil that I did, and I am using Blueprint Sketch. This is like my absolute favorite water combo to use, the peacock feathers and the Blueprint Sketch. And I'm just applying really heavy ink right at the edge of that stencil, and then I'm kind of blending it out a smidge with the other color, the peacock feathers. Sorry, I couldn't think of it until I got all the way to the top, and you can see now I have this really pretty ocean pattern. I think it looks amazing. It turned out so much better than I thought it was going to. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You can't really mess it up, so don't worry about doing it right or wrong or whatever. But it was really fun to do, but man, my arm was sore. So then when I got done, I took my distress sprayer and I spritzed some water droplets all over it, and then I used a paper towel to pick that water up. Now, I did kind of feel like some of that was a little bit too bright white against my background, so I went ahead and took my peacock feathers distress ink, and I just went right over the top of those spots, and it just kind of toned down that white and pushed them a little bit more into the background. I was super impatient and I didn't wait for this to dry, and I got some smudges because some of these drips were still wet. So I didn't mind because it's kind of a loose background anyway, but if you minded that, you would wait for your water to dry before you get super impatient like me. So now I'm going to cut that into 2 pieces, and that's mostly so that it'll fit through my Big Shot machine, because obviously that giant piece of paper is not going to fit through my Big Shot. And now I'm going to take half of it, and I have just a regular circle die, and I am going to cut out some ocean backgrounds for my cards. So I am obviously doing much smaller backgrounds than that piece of paper is. So I was glad that I had some of those smaller waves on there so that that wave pattern still came through even on this smaller little circle here. And I was able to get all 6 backgrounds that I needed out of just half of that sheet. And then I had a whole half sheet left over, which is like 2 more projects. So super stoked. So I also cut out from some regular Nina some stitch circle frames. So I'm going to be using that for the front of my shaker card. So I cut 6 of those out as well. And now I'm going to create the card bases. So this is a really fun way to create a shaped card base. I'm just taking a piece of Nina and I'm folding it in half lengthwise. I'm going to use my brand new fancy Teflon bone folder to go ahead and smooth that crease down. And then I'm taking my larger circle die that is actually the outside size of that frame, and I'm just making sure that it hangs over the top of that crease, and I'm going to run that through my Big Shot. So then when you come out, you have this really cute little shaped card with a flat edge on the top. So I'm just going to do that 6 times. So it took 2 sheets of Nina folded longwise like this. So these are little baby cards. They're like 3 inches by 3 inches or something. They're super cute. I was thinking you could use them for like gift tags or something like that. So that was kind of where my mind was at. I wanted the mermaid to kind of be like the whole size of the front of the card. And so I went smaller with them rather than larger. So that's why they're all kind of super tiny. So this is the Best Fin Friends stamp set from Mint Owl Studio. I think the stamp set is so cute. I love that it comes with 2 of those little mermaids and then all kinds of fishy little friends for her in there. And you can create some really neat underwater scenes with this. I think my absolute favorite is the heart bubbles, even though I didn't use them on this particular card. I think they're just super clever. Like, that's so adorable. So I am going to stamp this mermaid 6 times onto some Canson Cold Press XL watercolor paper. It's the same watercolor paper I used to do my background. And I'm using some VersaFine Black Onyx pigment ink. And I'm using this ink because it is waterproof, and I am going to be watercoloring my little mermaids today. So I am just fitting her on there like a puzzle when I flipped her upside down and over again, she fit beautifully on this little scrap of watercolor cardstock that I had laying around. So that worked out very nicely. And once I get that done, I'm going to clean off my stamp here and get everything put away, and then I will bust out my Gonzai Tombi watercolors. And I have not had the chance yet to do a whole lot of watercoloring with these, so I was super excited to watercolor those. Except just kidding, I'm actually going to finish off the inside of the cards before I do that. So since I am not going to put a sentiment on the outside of the card, I wanted to make sure that I got a sentiment in there and that I finished off the inside of the card. So I busted out some of my Hero Arts ombre ink pads, and I have like not used these. I think they're really fun, but they just sit in my drawer. I never know what to do with them. I am a colorer. You guys know that. Like, I like to color things. So stamping in colored ink, just I don't find opportunities to do that very often, but I thought it would be fun so that I didn't have to do a ton of extra coloring to use these really fun ink pads to stamp some of these additional elements on the inside of the card. So I used the like light peach to dark peach or something for the coral seaweed piece, and then for 3 of the seahorses I used like a light pink to a red, and then this one is lilac to grape. So these little images are pretty small, so I'm really only going over 2 of the different colors on those ombre ink pads, but they're still super fun to use. The trick is to make sure that you dance it kind of back and forth over the divide where the colors are, and that way you don't get like a stark line, you get a nice blend between the 2 colors. So that was really fun to kind of bust out a supply that I'd had for a while and hadn't had a chance to use. So now I'm going to stamp my sentiment using some Lawn Fawn Blue Jay ink. I thought it coordinated really well with the Blueprint Sketch ink on the front. So now I'm going to bust out my Gonzai Tombi watercolors. So I have the Big Bad Boy 36 set of these, and you can see on the inside of the lid there's like a palette, so you can put your color on there, know what it's going to look like. It's like super fun. So ahead of time, I had gotten some water prepped, and I have my brushes, and my brushes are absolutely nothing special, guys. I bought them like at Joann's, Michael's, generic craft store extraordinaire for like cheapo. So I am not a watercolorist. Like, I really enjoy to play with watercolors, but I don't have any expertise of any sort. So if you're looking for like really quality watercolor paper and watercolor brushes and all that good stuff, I am probably not your best source for that sort of thing. There's several fabulous, amazing artists out there on YouTube that I have watched and envied their talent in watercoloring that could probably give you a lot better advice. But for me, I'm a beginner. I just like to have fun with them. I think that they are really easy to create some really cool shadowing and stuff because of the way they dry. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm wetting down the area that I'm going to color with first, and then I am going over it and just adding some pigment on there. I do kind of love that when you watercolor, like I did all 6 tails exactly the same. Like all these mermaids are being watercolored exactly the same, and yet they all turn out really different, which is kind of cool because of the way that the paint goes on the paper. So I think that's really fun. And you can just get all kinds of different looks. You can go back over and apply more color on the top to make it darker and get more contrast. So I was just kind of playing around with this, and I think that is the most important part of any kind of coloring, is to make sure that you're just having fun, right? Kathy Rakusin over at the Daily Marker just started another 30-day coloring challenge, so I was super excited to participate and do some coloring. So that was kind of what I was doing here. I just wanted to play with these watercolors. I'd never really used them. I wanted to just have a little bit of fun. I didn't zoom in because I wanted you guys to be able to see the difference in all 6 mermaids as I was painting here. This set didn't have a really great skin tone, so she's a little yellowier than I probably would have normally done for a skin tone, but it totally worked completely fine. I thought that it was great. I didn't do any like color mixing in this particular project. I just used the colors straight off the paints the way that they come. So just another way to show you that you can totally simplify this watercoloring thing. Like for any of you out there who are like me and you're intimidated because it feels like it's like fancy art and like way above my skill level and like pay grade, it doesn't have to be. You can totally have fun with even these nice, more quality watercolors. And let me tell you, these watercolors are luscious. Like they are creamy and smooth and vibrant and opaque. They're really, really great. And my favorite part, I think, is that there's a pearlescent white one in there. And so like for her tail, I mixed the dark blue with some of that pearlescent white. Not only did it create a lighter shade of color, but it also added some really pretty shimmer that you unfortunately cannot capture on the video, but in real life her tail is like super mermaid shiny, which is amazing. So for her hair, I started with a more like light brown, and then I went over the top of it with some red because you just can't have a mermaid without red hair, right? Like I'm pretty sure Disney like made sure that we all instantly think red hair when we think mermaid. So I had to be totally stereotypical here and do some red hair. So I used a pretty dry brush to put just some texture over the top in the red to create like hair strokes. And again, it turned out different on every single one. Some of them look really cool. Some of them got completely lost and it blended in, but I was just having a lot of fun playing. I tend to be more of a dry watercolorist anyway because I like more control. I'm a total control freak. And if there's too much water, it just goes everywhere. So I tend to work with a more dry brush anyway. So once I finished coloring all of those beautiful mermaids, I fussy cut them out with my scissors, and then I'm lining the edges with a black soot distress marker. I like to do this just to make it look like I cut it out perfectly and you can't see any of those white edges, especially on a super thick cardstock like watercolor cardstock. I think it really helps. You could kind of see the shimmer in her tail there. That's what I was trying to do, was shimmer her tail around so you could see it. So now I'm going to start assembling my card. So I'm going to take one of my really pretty ocean backgrounds and I'm just going to adhere it right to the front of that shaped card base there. So I cut some super skinny strips of some Scotch foam tape, and I've been dying to try this. I've seen this on a couple other designers' channels, that if you peel the backing off of your foam tape, you can just mold that puppy right around your shaped shaker opening, and you don't have to worry about cutting 8,000 little tiny pieces, and it just goes right on there. So I really wanted to try it, and let me tell you, it worked fabulous. I didn't cut my thing long enough, so I did end up using a second piece to fill in that gap. The main thing is just make sure they're squished really tight together, especially if you're going to be using micro beads like I am, because those puppies are micro. They are tiny and they could slip through even the tiniest of openings. So just make sure that all your pieces of foam tape are shoved really tight together if you have to use multiple ones. So earlier when I did all my die cutting, I used my small circle to also die cut a bunch of pieces of acetate. This is just normal acetate that you would run through like a computer printer. And I just cut that up and then I adhered it to the back of my stitched circle frame that's going to be the front of my shaker card. I am applying my seed beads, or my micro beads, excuse me, over a garbage can because they just like bounce everywhere and it makes a huge mess. So now I have my micro beads in there and I'm just going to carefully apply the top of my shaker and then squish it down. You just want to make sure you don't shake it around too much before the top is on because those micro beads will stick to your foam tape and then it makes it really hard to apply the front of the frame because your foam tape is all covered in other stuff. So I then just put a little bit of adhesive on the back of my mermaid and stuck her right to the front. I kind of stuck her on with the card open, so I made sure that she was upright. Since it's a shaped card, I couldn't really tell where the opening was. So that finishes off the front. I think that ocean background with the seed beads, I keep saying seed beads. They are not seed beads. They are micro beads, people, like way big size difference there with the micro beads. I think it looks like sand in the ocean, like glass, pretty colored glass sand. I don't know. I thought it looked really cool. And that particular set of micro beads that I have is all different colors. So I was able to put different colors in each card. I got this set of microbeads at Michael's, but I linked below and over at my blog to just the microbead selection they have, like over at Simon Says Stamp. So if you're interested in trying some of these out, you can check that out and see if they have any colors that catch your eye there. They're a cool product. Like, I'd never really worked with them before, and I did a card last week with them, and then this is something else to do with them. So I'm excited to see what else I can come up with to use these microbeads for. So I am just adding some dot detail with my white gel pen on her little tail there, and then I came in and added some black glazed Jelly Roll pen to her eyes to just kind of make them pop a little bit. And that completes the little set of cards for today. So I like that the inside has the sentiment there, and that each one is the same but just a little bit different, and the cute little size makes them perfect for maybe adding to a gift to do like gift tags with. So thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'm going to show you a nice close-up here of the coloring on the mermaid and the super fun seed beads inside those shaker carts. This has been a fabulous time working with some amazing Mint Owl Studio products. So check out the description box below for links to Mint Owl Studio and all kinds of other crafty inspiration. Thanks, guys. Bye.